Hi guys, I'm Michelle. I moved here to Playa del Carmen about 5 years ago with my mom, my grandmother, and my dog.
Hey Gen Max, you just met Michelle, and we're going to tell Michelle's story. We're going to hear about Playa del Carmen. We're going to hear about whether she speaks Spanish, and she's obviously too young to retire, so we're going to hear about what she's doing here for income and whatever else we kind of come across on the way. Talk about that multi-generational family here in Mexico. So let's back up and start where I like to start, which is kind of the beginning, which is the impetus to move to Mexico. Let's find out why Michelle, mom and grandmother, moved to Mexico.
About 7 years ago, my mom decided to retire. She's about to turn 65. She said, I'm done. I want to enjoy the rest of the years that I have. My parents are originally from Argentina, but she didn't want to go back there. She also didn't want to live in the States. So I'm the only child. I was like, let's see where we can move. So I started doing a little bit of research and realized that Mexico is a very convenient place from New York. Economically, it's doing really well. So I started doing that research. It took me about a year to pack everything and get everything organized. Getting everything shipped down to Mexico was also a process that was also very tedious. But yeah, it took about a year. Next thing you know, we sold the house November 2019. And 3 months later, COVID was happening. The house was already sold, or things were already picked up and ready to ship. So we were just kind of like looking at the news. Our flight was booked. We were ready to go. March 11, 2020 came along. Got to the airport. 3 hours later, we landed in Mexico. 3 days later, all of New York shut down. So it was, everything just kind of aligned, working out. I already had a broker set up to look at homes here. We just started looking at tons of different houses. The peso dropped, so we got a great COVID discount on the house that we bought. And once we signed off, 2 weeks later, everything here in the Riviera Maya closed down. So we were just kind of renting, staying inside. Everyone started leaving the Riviera Maya. All the hotels started closing. Our experience is very different from everyone in the States. We were kind of just here, barbecuing by the pool and just kind of laying low. There was a dry law here that was installed in Mexico for about 3 months. No liquor sales, anything that was on the shelves. Once it was done, it was done. I know a lot of people in the States had a hard, they didn't understand the concept behind it or what was the reason for it. It wasn't a big deal, to be honest here. Like, we kind of just laid low. The beaches were pristine. Everything was very quiet. Nature was coming back to life. There was a lot of wildlife just walking around the streets, deer, little animals. It was honestly, it was a nice little reset out here. After about 3 months, things started opening up here again, and we were able to resume outdoor activities. So cafes were still closed, restaurants were still closed, the beaches here were still closed, and there was nothing to do. So what did people start doing? Working out. That was the thing to do here. There was little groups of yoga in the yoga corner, functional training. And for me, moving out here, I wanted a different lifestyle. I used to be a bartender in New York. I grew up in New York. It's a very different lifestyle from what I have here now. I wanted, more active friends, active lifestyle, things like that. So I just started joining tons of groups and making friends and working out 6 days a week, twice a day. There's nothing else to do. And then you go to someone's house and have a coffee. Like, that was COVID situation down here in Playa. My mom was still adjusting to the whole thing. My mom is now 73. My grandmother's about to turn 90. They were kind of just relaxing because my mom had just retired, and she's like, you know what? It was a little bit of a shock at first for her to not work, but she was also just enjoying her time off by the pool and just, kind of taking it as we'll see what happens situation. Finally, like about a month later, the time frame was about maybe 5 months for all this. We did the closing on the house and we started remodeling. Once we got the keys, the kitchen was very tiny, and I wanted to do kind of like an open layout, Mexican style with like an island in the middle. So we got a referral from a realtor. He recommended an architect. We just started doing all the work, painting the whole house. And it took us about 3 months because things did not work out here how they normally work in the States. So we were kind of hoping that the house would be ready and then we would have our things shipped back here just in time. That wasn't the case. We got our things from New York shipped here, and the kitchen still wasn't done. So it was a learning curve, getting our bills set up, our property taxes. There was a lot of things that we needed to learn because things don't flow in here like they do in the States. So eventually, after probably the end of 2020, everything was ready to go and everything started opening up here. Restaurants started opening, cafes started getting permits to open, like everything. And all of a sudden, there was a massive boom of expats coming in here. Canadians, Americans, the rest of the world was pretty closed. So we were the only ones open. Everyone started coming down here. And I was at that point, I was like, okay, I've taken some time off. What can I do for work? And it kind of just snowballed. I was like, people start hearing of me. A neighbor caught wind of what I was doing with our house. She's like, hey, can you help us with our house? And we want to redo our floors, things like that. And it just became a whole business. I started realizing that expats have a hard time here because they don't speak the language and they need help navigating everything from like finding a carpenter to a painter to help setting up their bills and their property. Everything is very tedious when it comes here to getting things done here, especially if you don't speak the language.
So I'm going to interrupt right there. We're going to talk about next what Michelle does in terms of her income and her different businesses that she's formed or forming. But also we are going to meet Mom. So Mom is going to come by and I'll introduce her and kind of get a little bit of her perspective about living in Playa del Carmen. But let's continue with Michelle and what she does for a living.
I started meeting a lot of expats from Canada, America, who were investing. People are investing here at a very high rate. And there's tons of brokers that can help them navigate that whole process. But once they have their keys, they kind of feel stuck on like, you know, which plumber to hire, which painter to hire. I want to redo my kitchen. There's so many things that you don't even think of. We have our water here is very hard, and we also have a lot of issues with salt water in the air. So I always recommend for people buying their homes to install water softener systems. You know, kind of keep your home very low maintenance. Try to use a lot of natural woods, cement, things like that. Try not to buy things that are too fancy faucets, fancy fridges, because when it breaks, who's gonna fix it, right? And also with the air and being next to the beach, you know, a lot of things that are electronics will kind of like break here and there. So there's a lot of fun learning curves when you move here to Mexico. And I started realizing that I felt like I was being of use to people, you know, kind of just explain to them how things work here. And then I would give them like lists of things to bring from the States, like kitchenware. Bedding is so much better in the States and it's cheaper. So, once people started moving here permanently, they wanted to buy their car, but they don't know where to buy a car. They want to get things like plated and little things like that. I started realizing that I was able to help them. And next thing you know, everything just kind of snowballed. And I decided to finally put up my website. She gets at Playa del Carmen, and I also work through like word of mouth. People need help when they move down here, and it's something that I love to do. I really enjoy seeing the before and after of someone's home and like seeing them be so satisfied with their new retirement home.
So quick interruption. If you're enjoying this video and you are not already a subscriber, I would love it if you push the subscribe button, also the little bell, so that you get notifications of future videos. That really helps me out. If you're already a subscriber, push the like button. If you're liking this, leave a comment down below. Now let's get back to the interview. So I've got another video up here, I think it is, about, if it's available, about getting a work permit to work in Mexico. And one of the best ways to work in Mexico is to have special skills and to make your own business. And Michelle speaks Spanish because of her upbringing, and that definitely helps, and is able to provide services in English to people. So that's a great way to start your own business. But I want to switch over now. We're going to swap out and we're going to meet Mom and hear about what she thinks about retiring in Playa del Carmen.
I moved from New York after 48 years living in New York, working. I chose Playa del Carmen because it's quiet, a small town between Tulum and Cancun. So I prefer this spot. It's very social people, very warming. I like it. I mean, 38 years traveling in Mexico, the coast. So always I looking in the future to my retirement, so Latin America. And I decide between the other countries, get in this spot, Playa del Carmen. So far, it's good for me. I can go out with my mother, my daughter, and so I like it. I feel good. It's running out of the big city, the noise and the running. So that's the reason I chose this spot, Playa del Carmen. We go out a lot with my daughter. Since I had to take care of my mother, so I don't go out too much myself, but we go out there with my daughter and the three us, different place, different town, Mexico. And I like it, all the coast, the mountain, the beach, food. I like the people. I mean, it's good. So you have to like this kind of life, natural. The food, the weather, the beach. I feel good. The only I can say it, I like it.
Okay, there we go. So let's get Michelle's take on Playa del Carmen, because this is definitely a different place. I've only been here for less than 24 hours, and it's definitely more of a party place, at least where I'm staying. And actually, where Michelle lives is very close to the Fifth Avenue, which is where kind of all the partying seems to take place. So let's get Michelle's take on Playa del Carmen.
Living in Playa, for me, has been amazing. I know that most people have this, well, you can come and party here. Playa does have a lot of clubs and a lot of bars, but it has a huge wellness community. There's a lot of us here who never even go to Fifth Avenue, don't even go out to party. We focus on other things, wellness, working out, ice baths. We do a lot of road trips. There's a huge community here, which I love, especially with women. We tend to help each other out. We tend to support each other. We help each other grow in our business. It's a very, for me, coming from New York City, it's a very relaxed lifestyle. I don't have the stress that I do have when I'm back in New York. Even things can be a little bit tedious to get done. You can always pay someone to help you, you know? Where I live is in town, close to the beach, but it's quieter than downtown Playa. I love the area. I love that it's accessible to everything. I love that I can wake up in the morning early and go paddle boarding and see the sunrise. I love that I can walk to the beach after work when I've had a long day and just watch the sunset. I love the amount of cafes that we have here. The thing to do here for most of us is to get up early, go work out, meet each other at a cafe, have breakfast, people watch, and then start our day. There's so many things here for expats to do. And there's tons of digital nomads here as well. So there's little communities for little things depending on what your interests are. Living here long term, there's one thing to vacation here and there's one thing to live here. When you come here for a week, you enjoy all the perks, the beaches, the dinners, the going out, you know, you don't worry about anything else. When you live here, it's a little bit different because you know, sometimes your faucet will break or you'll have a leak or the power goes out here a lot. And a lot of people don't seem to know that. Would you get used to it after a while? Power goes out, you're just kind of like, all right, gotta sit here, wait like 15 minutes, maybe 3 hours. One never knows. Time works differently here. There's this like Mexican time joke, you know, where people are like, oh yeah, I'll see you there on Monday at 9. And it's like 11:30 on Monday and you're still waiting on people. But you know, at the end of the day, it's just adjusting to everything. Now that I've adjusted living here in Playa, for me, it's hard when I go back to New York, where it's noisy, everyone's rude, no one really cares. You're even there really half the time. There's no community because everyone's so stressed out with the constant day-to-day. And in the States, there's this whole constantly consuming things that we don't need, buying things that we don't need for instant gratification. And living here, when you live a much more simpler life, you're not on Amazon every day scrolling to see what you're gonna buy that's gonna like quench that thirst because you've had such a shitty day. You don't. There's a lot of things you start realizing that you don't need. You live a more simpler life and it's just more calm. You know, and even though you are busy running around, which any kind of work that you do have that time to reset. Like, when I have renovations going on for like a few weeks or months, I know that once it ends for like 4 or 5 days, I can go to Isla Mujeres, I can go to Holbox, I can go down to Bacalar and just decompress, you know, and I have a good work-life balance, which is something I never had in the States. And in the States, I used to bartend. I would clock in and clock out. That's it. That was my life. Here, between renovations and all these other little small, you know, businesses that I do on the side, everything just kind of just took off. There is an opportunity here for people to grow, especially if you're bilingual and you have a niche. If there's something that people are looking for, whether it's like, you know, food, something, you know, we don't have a huge diverse culinary cuisine here. You know, you don't really find a lot of Chinese food. You don't find a lot of Indian food. So if you're moving here and you bring that in, whether you're making it from home and it's delicious, guaranteed to take off. If you're a retired plumber, electrician, and you kind of find yourself like not knowing what to do with yourself, and you post on Facebook like, hey, I'm willing to help someone out, if anybody needs anything, boom, done. That's next thing you know, you have a full-blown business as long as you're bilingual. And once your business takes off, then you can start getting your whole paperwork together. I always advise people, if they're going to be here for long term, to get their residency, to make sure all the paperwork is in order. You don't want to have any issues while you're here. Yes, things are more accessible and people are kind of just turning a blind eye to things, but when you're going to be here long term and you want to open up your business, it's really important to have that. But life here for me has been a game changer. You know, I just kind of found a new version of myself in a sense.
Okay, so I can definitely see now. This morning I did go out for coffee. Yesterday I went to a juice bar for an acai bowl. So there definitely is this culture here of small business. The acai bowl, the woman who ran that was talking with her interior designer, and I met them. So there's definitely a feel here for an expat community that exists outside the party scene that is a lot of Playa del Carmen at night. But let's go back to the multi-generational family and hear about maybe a little bit about healthcare and where everyone lives.
When we were moving here, we were kind of toggling back and forth whether my mom and my grandma would keep their Medicare in the States or just decide to just do out-of-pocket here in Mexico. We decided to just skip it, and the last couple of years, annually, they get their checkups. Blood work, urine, EKG, the whole works, and it's about $250 US per person. I'm very thankful that my mom and my grandmother do not have any health issues, do not take any meds or anything like that. They eat very well, and they've actually lost weight. They are more mobile. Their arthritis doesn't flare up as often like it used to in the States. So they're definitely living a much healthier lifestyle here and no stress, right? So there are health insurance here in Mexico. There are companies that offer it. But at the end of the day, it really is up to you on what you're looking for, whether you're looking to just skip that and going back to the States every now and then to get checkups, or if you prefer to get it here. Cost-wise, getting dental cleaning is about $40. For women, OBGYNs, a visit is about $30. Getting a full checkup, like I mentioned before, anywhere between $200 and $300 to get that done yearly. So as Americans, it is more cost-effective. Canadians are a little bit different. Canadians have health insurance, so that's a little bit different. But for us as Americans, we tend to find everything out here a little bit more cost effective. So we decided to just do that route. We haven't had any issues till now.
So when these guys first arrived here, they all lived together, but they're not living together now. So let's hear that transition over to separate places.
So as you guys know, we all moved here together. Me, my mom, my grandmother, and my dog. We originally bought a house here in Playa Car, a 4-bedroom, 4-bathroom villa, which we renovated, right? But after 2 years, I kind of had established myself here work-wise, and I kind of just started looking for my own place. I found this apartment in town in a small little residential area called Tohoku, which I've always been curious about, and I popped over to see it, and it was a little run down. I was like, but I love the space. So I kind of negotiated with the landlord. I was like, listen, can you give me a 3-year lease? I'll fix up the place, maybe you can lower the rent a little bit. And he was like, yeah, sure, do whatever you want, it's not. So I ended up renting out a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom apartment, which I renovated myself on a budget, by the way. The reason I did it was because I kind of wanted, if I was going to be living somewhere that I didn't own, I didn't really want to come out of pocket for it. So my concept around it was to rent out the spare rooms to female travelers. And it just took off. Like, there's a lot of women traveling here over 30, 40 years old who are not going to stay in a hostel and don't necessarily want to live by themselves, They like that sense of community. It's nice to have them wake up in the morning, say good morning, have a coffee together, sometimes watch movies together, but everyone gives each other their own space. And then all of a sudden, it kind of clicked for me as to what I wanted from my own house in the future. And the concept behind it is to build an all-female community, kind of buying one of those little Mexican casitas that are 3 floors and having like my apartment, and then have other floors with rooms and independent studios. Because I would like to have a community where people are co-working together. There's yoga in the palapa upstairs, or, cooking night, or game night, things like that. And I've noticed there's a lot of women here in their late 30s and 40s who do not want to have children and are well off. They're traveling the world, but they want that sense of community. There's something about women when they get together and they start brainstorming, all these ideas just start going like back and forth, and we all of a sudden you're like, oh wow, I can do this, I can, and we help each other. There's a huge sense of community here, which I love. So that's what I wanted to do in my future plans. I've been doing it for 3 years in my apartment. Obviously there's some months, a month or two out of the year where I'm like, I just want the place to myself. But all in all, I've had great experiences. I've heard stories from women from all over the world. It's really nice to gain a perspective from like people from Australia and Poland and Ukraine and Russia, and like sit down on the couch with them for a coffee or dinner and just kind of pick their brain, and we start talking, and I get like international news from everyone. Like I don't watch news, but meeting people here, I get to see their perspective on things, So once I got myself established here, my mom and my grandmother were still in Playa del Carmen. The house was really big for them. My mom doesn't drive. So she started kind of feeling a little bit isolated. There's about 17 villas there, but they're all kind of empty, or they're like vacation rentals, things like that. So she happened to mention to me, like, if you find something where you are, let me know. I'm like, okay. So randomly, one day my friend comes to visit again, and she's like, hey, I think I'm gonna go look at an apartment around the corner from you. We'll probably end up being neighbors. And I was like, okay, sure, I'll come with you. I went to the apartment and I met the owner of the apartment, which I assumed was an owner of the whole building. And I was like, oh, do you know any places in here that it might be for rent, for sale? And he's like, actually, the 2 units downstairs are for sale. Our neighbor, Matt, has them as a listing. I was like, okay. Reached out to Matt right away. He said, yes, the 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom downstairs is available. It has a private patio facing the inside garden. And I was like, perfect. I called my mom right away. The owner of that unit was old school, so he wouldn't let us see it right away because it was renters. But I kind of just took my mom straight upstairs, and I was like, this is the exact same apartment, except it's downstairs. She loved it. She's like, it's close to town. And yeah, we got everything sorted out, bought that apartment, and we're just in the process of selling the house that we have in Playa del Carmen. And she's much happier now. Now she can like walk to the bakery, walk to the taco spot, go to the supermarket. And there's a community here of people who've been living here for over 20 years who are about 70, 80 years old. So there is more of a sense of community for her to at least have people to like say good morning to, unlike living in Playa del Carmen. So she's definitely a lot happier here. I'm happy that she lives around the corner from me. I'm happy that when I'm away for a few months, when I go back to the States, I have friends here and neighbors that keep an eye on her. Even my workers that I've been using, for renovations for the last couple of years, if I need anything or she needs anything, right away they're there to help. So it gives me a sense of peace that they're okay.
And grandma lives with mom around the corner. And actually just around the corner, I saw some folks hanging out outside. Everyone had their dogs out. One of the dogs was barking at me and then loving on me and then barking at me and then loving on me. So definitely this is a really interesting community here. You walk around, all the houses are different and there's this internal courtyard. So it's a really cool place. But let's get a tour of Michelle's place here, of her apartment, and also hear about numbers about what it costs to live in Playa del Carmen, just a few blocks off of the beach.
So my place is a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom. It's a 3-apartment building. I'm on the 2nd floor, which gets an amazing breeze here, especially when the times that we actually get a breeze here in the Caribbean. You enter the 2nd floor. It's a kind of like a coral staircase coming up. You enter, you've got this huge layout of the kitchen, the living room. It's an open flow. And then you have 2 bedrooms in the back, and you have you can see the courtyard in the back, actually. So you can sit out there for coffee, listen to the birds. It's got just amazing flow and amazing energy in this building. Also, I have all female neighbors, which is great. My neighbor upstairs, Carly, she's a healer. And my neighbor downstairs, Sadia, is an esthetician. So we all really take care of each other when someone's not here, and we come up and down, have dinner with each other, and they're always like, oh, I love your place, because it's just, I set up my home for entertainment, to host, right? My outside space, my inside space, and the colors I chose was to make it a girly apartment, I love colors. I love art. I have a lot of things that I brought from New York. So that's why I just started kind of just decorating the space little by little. And I love a lot of natural materials. So, my hand towel holder is wood. Everything that I have pretty much here is made out of wood. For many reasons. One, is natural, and two, it doesn't rust. So my rent is $800 a month, which is a great deal. I know a lot of people, there's newer apartments here that are going for like $1,500 a month. But they're 1 bedrooms or 2 bedrooms, but they do have the pool and the amenities and all things like that. But to be honest, there's a lot of homes and apartments here that you can get anywhere between $400 a month for a studio to $800, $900 for like a 2-3 bedroom, depending. But granted, it's a simple home. You're not going to have all the amenities. Budget-wise, my rent's about $800 a month. I spend about $30 every 2 to 3 months on gas. My water bill is about $15 to $20 a month. The most expensive utility that we have here is the electricity. Electricity runs in the summer about $180 a month. I have 4 AC units, so they're all running all the time. That's as high as it gets. But electricity is, to most, maybe it's not expensive, but out here it is very expensive. Another thing to consider when you are if you decide to come out here and rent, and you are here in a rental building that's constantly taking Airbnbs, there are different brackets for electrical bills. So that will take you into a higher tax bracket, which means you can pay up to $400 a month on electricity. It happened to us when we first moved here. We were renting a house in Playa del Carmen, and our bill was like $400, and we were like, oh my God, is this gonna be our bill at our new home? Thankfully, it wasn't, because the home that we bought was never used as a vacation rental. The only way you can get out of that bracket is if a new owner takes over, then you get out of that and you start clean again. But I would say budget-wise, if you're looking to retire here, you move, or not, or you're just looking to move here, and you're making about $2,000 a month, you have more than enough. Like, get yourself a little studio. Cost of living here, I spend about maybe $300 a month. Groceries, things like that. Obviously, depending on your lifestyle. If you want to go to beach clubs all the time and you want to go out all the time, then it's going to add up. But you can also eat tacos and tamales for like 80 cents. Or you can go to a nice dinner and spend around $50, $70 per person. So I do treat myself. I do have days that I feel like being bougie and being at a beach club and spending $80 that day in drinks and, but it's not something I do often. So if you are a person I like to cook at home. There's so many fresh groceries here, and my favorite thing to go out is just cafes. And cafes, a breakfast here will be about like $7. So all in all, I would say around $2,000 a month is a good budget to have, which works for a lot of people who are retired from the US.
Well, before we wrap up the video, I want to get a tip. So what is Michelle's top tip for someone who's thinking about moving to Mexico, or specifically Playa del Carmen?
A tip for you guys. If you're thinking of moving down here, I know you've heard it a million times, but do your research. Do your research. I highly suggest going on Facebook is huge here. I know we don't use it much in the States, but it's huge here for every kind of business. I suggest you join all the expat groups in Playa del Carmen, all the rentals groups in Playa del Carmen, and kind of gauge things. Always rent for at least a month in different neighborhoods. If you're considering buying something here, I always tell people to rent before you buy, because you don't know which neighborhood you're gonna be. You can buy something, maybe the building's not perfect. There's a lot of things that can go wrong with that. Do all your research. There's a lot of people here who will help you. So you can kind of pay people here to do anything for you. So you can hire someone to kind of, walk you through rentals. You can hire someone to show you, homes for sale and things like that. Come with savings. Make sure you have your savings. Make sure you have a little nest egg or something, just in case of anything. Understand that this is a different culture. Things are not going to flow like they do back in the States. You might hit up a few bumps in the road where it can be frustrating to pay your bills. You can't go online right away and just do it really quickly. So have an open mind. Have an open mind that this is not the US. This is not Canada. This is a Latin American country, and things run here differently. Do not come here with the mindset that oh, I can't believe that we should sue them. You know, it's just different. It's a different culture. So you kind of learn to be patient. There's one thing that Mexico taught me coming from New York is patience. Mexico will definitely test your patience. But once you adapt and you tend to relax a little bit more, you're kind of just like, well, it'll kind of work itself out. So tip for everyone is just rent in different neighborhoods. Make sure you have a little nest egg. Go on Facebook and do, I believe there is a book actually on life in Mexico. I think her name is Sonia Diaz. She has a whole book set up on the move here, you know? But when I moved here, Facebook was a game changer. I started finding out of companies I could use to ship here, on brokers I could use to show me homes, on workers I could use to help me, you know, fix my home. I found contacts when I bought a car on who could change my plates, who could help me, who could explain to me the process of how I pay things here, you know, so that was very helpful. And then little by little, you know, just take it day by day.
So I'm going to talk a little bit about that electric bill in a second, but I'm going to have a link down below to Michelle's website, also to Sonia's book, and also to a Facebook group that is specific for Playa del Carmen. Pretty much if you want to move somewhere, just type in like expats or foreigners in wherever it is, and you will find a lot of Facebook groups, and those Facebook groups are super helpful. Do a search through there for whatever you're looking for. If you don't find the answer, go online, just post something, and you'll get lots and lots of answers. But definitely do the search first. Otherwise, some of those answers will be a little bit like, man, that question gets asked every day. Can you just look at the comments already? So electricity, Michelle mentioned the electricity and then getting to that really, really high rate. It's called DAC. And it is something where you have to get like 12 months of bills that are lower, or 12 months of lower electricity use. And with the Airbnb, sometimes people will just leave their air conditioner on all day or something like that. And it just drives up the electricity to the point where you get zero subsidy from the government. Mexico subsidizes the electricity, especially in the summers. So you don't want to lose that subsidy. And changing over the electricity, as Michelle said, you can get it reset if you change over the electricity to a new name, but that's not always so easy. So you might need someone to help you with that. So just if you're going to be buying a place, check into what the electricity costs are. And I've actually got a video about that. I've got a video about electricity and CFE down here. Otherwise, I've got more videos from Playa del Carmen if they're available, or all around Mexico. Wish you were here in Playa del Carmen with me, and I'll see you soon in another video. Hasta luego.